Good morning and welcome to Rising. Thanks so much for tuning in. How are you doing this morning, Lindsay?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? I haven't seen you since the weekend, so how was your weekend?
Yeah, I was just fine. How was yours?
It was good. I got to see my baby. She'll be coming to DC soon now
Oh,
that I'm officially your co-host.
Good.
You can't get rid of me.
Have you found a place to live in the city? Choosing a DC neighborhood is a really big choice.
Well, I'm trying to navigate through the streets, but there's a lot of federal officers all over the place, so it's a little hard to try to
Keeping
figure out.
you safe, Lindsay. I know how much you appreciate that.
No, I do appreciate it. You know, I never like to go back and forth with people that actually had the experience of somewhere or living somewhere. I think part of what my move here has taught me is that, you know, there could be studies and polls and all that stuff, but people living here actually have a good say in how it feels. So I'm excited to be a resident and see how I feel, but I hope that we can, you know, meet in the middle with the temperature.
Well,
so coming up on Rising, we're talking about a lot of stuff, right? So I'll be discussing House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. He promises to bring Kristi Noem before Congress.
Also, MSNBC is changing their name. Reactions haven't been the most positive.
And if you, like me, want more Epstein files released, there's some good news on that front. But first, Robby, what is on your radar today?
Let's find out, shall we? Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg just can't catch a break. Now, Robert Reich, former Secretary of Labor and a major leftist voice on social media, is yelling at him about his wealth. Reich writes on X, Mark Zuckerberg has spent $110 million to buy 11 houses in Palo Alto's neighborhood. He's turning the homes into a compound that's on top of his 30-bedroom, 30-bathroom compound in Hawaii and another in Lake Tahoe. I don't want to hear that billionaires can't afford a wealth tax. Here's my question. Is this the left distilled down to its purest essence? An essence that is simply jealous and envious toward a successful business person? Does a desire to confiscate through progressive taxation the wealth of someone who earned his money by actually building something, to take from the successful because what? Because they were too successful? I wonder what's left once a country stigmatizes productivity and encourages its most entrepreneurial people to just take their businesses elsewhere. This is, of course, exactly the experiment New York City is about to conduct, assuming they select Zohran Mamdani, a self-described socialist, to be their next mayor. Here was House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries attempting to grapple with this reality, the reality that Zohran, a socialist, is probably a more likely future Democratic Party leader than the squishy centrism that the rest of the party is offering.
And how do you think about the message of socialism, or being a socialist, and what that may portend for the Democratic Party?
Well, I think, as I indicated, listen, my view about what we as Democrats stand for, what we're fighting for. We need to lower the high cost of living in the United States of America. We need to fix our broken healthcare system. And we need to clean up corruption in Washington, D.C., so we actually have a government that works for the American people, for everyday Americans, for hardworking American taxpayers, as opposed to working for the privileged few.
But back to Zuckerberg for a moment, because I think his trajectory is an important indictment of where the Democratic Party is heading. Now, for years, Zuck was a favorite punching bag of both the left and the right. Over the course of the 2010s, he became an important funder of liberal causes, which earned him the perpetual ire of Republicans, even as Facebook itself remained a vital source of web traffic for right-of-center news sites. Then, in 2016, Donald Trump got elected president, and progressives eventually landed on "it's Facebook's fault" as their preferred explanation for how this could have happened. It became commonplace to see mainstream headlines explicitly blaming Zuckerberg for allowing his social media site to platform and advertise Republican messaging. Now, 8 years prior, when Barack Obama successfully used Facebook to reach voters, including by hiring Facebook co-founder Chris Hughes to do digital outreach for the campaign, no one in the media had any problem with this. After it became apparent that non-Democrats could use Facebook too, Hughes suddenly started advocating a breakup of the company. When Democrats seized upon the now thoroughly debunked notion that Russian ads and bots on Facebook had swung the election to Trump, the anti-Facebook fever pitch reached its apex. Meanwhile, Zuckerberg had not exactly endeared himself to Republicans. Developments in 2020 and 2021 further enraged the right as the Hunter Biden laptop story, COVID-19 pandemic, produced moderation decisions that conservatives correctly despised. This was the moment of greatest danger for Zuckerberg. Principled libertarian defenders of free markets like myself, we were in retreat. Rising populism on both the left and the right had threatened to make antitrust a reality for Facebook. But then a few things happened that ultimately benefited Zuckerberg. Most importantly, Facebook and other social media sites were able to demonstrate to conservatives that their egregiously bad moderation decisions were the result of federal interference. something libertarians had long opposed. Also, Zuckerberg learned how to punch back at Democrats and MAGA's intrinsic dislike of him. It softened. Under the second Trump administration, Zuckerberg enjoys an occasionally fraught, but really much improved relationship with the president, which is broadly characteristic of other tech leaders. Elon Musk has a combative relationship with Trump, even though he loves the man. But the media still hates Zuck. For evidence, look no further than last week's story in the New York Times. Zuckerberg's compound had something that violated city code. A private school, writes the Times. The tone of the article matches the tone of the headline, pearl-clutching moral indignation. A private school in violation of the city code. The horror! Oh, the situation is perfectly understandable, though. After the pandemic hit, Mr. and Mrs. Zuckerberg decided to enroll 2 of their daughters in a pod-based homeschool-type hybrid thing alongside a dozen other kids. Zuckerbergs are obscenely rich and own a massive compound, as I said, in Palo Alto, California. They hired staff, including teachers and overseer, made the whole thing free for the families of the other kids. After the pandemic came to an end, they decided they'd prefer to continue educating their children in this manner. The other families obviously seem to like the deal too, and it seems like this is obvious, but if this arrangement, a wealthy man setting up a school on his own property, paying teachers' salaries, making the whole thing free for a dozen other families, if that violates some city code, well then the city code ought to be changed. Zuckerberg should have the right to use his own money to educate his children in a manner he sees fit. Unfortunately, that's contrary to the political direction the Democratic Party is taking. Under Mamdani, AOC, and others, the Democratic Party is going to be a hardcore, redistributionist, wealth-stigmatizing, capitalism-hating, anti-prosperity, anti-freedom, anti-choice party that thinks the government and the central planners get to decide who deserves how much of their own money and what you can do with your own property. It's coming to a city near you, if you're a New Yorker, very, very near you.
How much time do I have? Can I get the violin? I can't believe, I cannot believe that, it's not Zuckerberg's fault that the system is set up in a way that rewards millionaires and that punishes the everyday American. I think what people are asking for is fair treatment. So let's just comb through Zuckerberg, because you brought him up as an example as like the victim here. From 2013 to 2018, when he made a huge portion of his capital, he paid a tax rate, an effective tax rate of 13.7%. The average middle class person paid what?
I have no idea.
Way more, 21%. Okay, so that's the part of America that people are confused about. If I am an average middle class earning American and paying 21% on my income, why is Zuckerberg a billionaire and has been for quite some time paying 13% and much less than me? And so I think that is the biggest issue. The same thing with the Palo Alto school. It's like it's against code, but you don't have to follow those rules. But mind you,
have to follow that
I
rule,
have to.
and no one should have
but
to pay
it exists, and so either way, the
I
taxes
advocate
still
bringing
exist.
your tax rate down to. Now, Mark Zuckerberg has paid
Mark Zuckerberg knows how to skirt around.
You.
He knows how to skirt around things. That's the whole point. Rich people have access to things that poorer people do not, or middle class people do not, right? Like offshore bank accounts and ways. So it's just like people can get upset at the same time and be excited about him achieving the American dream. It's just that when somebody pulls their own money from resources in the same community that they're violating code in,
it's their money, not the community.
But it's just the principle that he has no. While he's benefited much from like skirting around major things, he also is only benefiting himself, but also raised the taxes in the community for everyone that's paying much more at a higher percentage of their income than he is. So in Palo Alto, because things like Facebook came by, the average garbage man can't afford to live in the community they might have grown up in. And so these are things that he should give back and pay forward. So that is an option because it's his personal wealth, but I still think that people can be upset that he's not paying the same tax rate as them and criticize him. And that's what most Democrats are doing.
Well, he's paying more.
Like actual dollar amount, but the amount and percentage.
I don't think I think the tax rate. I'd have to look closely at why that is, or if that is the case. But the tax rate should be the same for everyone, and it should be very low. It should be even lower than 10% is as much as I'm willing to go at it. I pay
flat for everyone.
I don't know why I paid a tax rate. I can tell you much appallingly higher than that last year. You probably did as well.
And it doesn't bother you.
We're not as wealthy as Zuckerberg. Of course it bothers me. I want it zero.
Okay, so the average American can be bothered if Zuckerberg found a way to get his to 13% and you're paying 40%.
I just want access to, I want legal advice like that then. I don't want to bilk him more for being successful, but that's why I don't vote for Democrats. Next up, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and 6 other European leaders met with President Trump at the White House yesterday as he continues his push for peace. We'll talk about it right after this.